U.S. Supreme Court ruling today could have major reverberations here in Illinois.
Could indicted former House Speaker Mike Madigan have his case dismissed? And could the related, that is, ComEd 4, have their corruption convictions overturned? Paris Schutz is here with the latest on this. A lot of questions after this.
There are a lot of questions after this ruling, Sylvia and Terrence. According to the decision, public officials can accept money or gifts from contractors doing business with their government as long as there's no explicit quid pro quo. And the crux of this ruling comes down to the difference between gratuity and bribery.
If I do something as a public official, I take an official act, and there's no agreement on anything at the front end, but on the back end, the private gives me a gift certificate, hires me as a consultant. That's a gratuity because there was no agreement on the front end.
So in this case, the court ruled that an Indiana mayor was not guilty of bribery for accepting a $13,000 payment for a garbage company that he awarded a public contract to. That's because the payment came later without that provable quid pro quo. So the so-called ComEd 4, they're convicted of bribing Madigan with jobs for cronies in exchange for favorable legislation. But today, an attorney for convicted former ComEd CEO Ann Pramaggiore says her conviction should now be overturned. Quote, the Supreme Court made clear that what Ann Pramaggiore was charged with is not a crime. And the attorney for ComEd 4 defendant Mike McLean, who was Mike Madigan's political fixer, says the case most certainly now should be thrown out. Quote, because the ComEd jury was given incorrect legal instructions, we believe that the verdict in that trial must be vacated. We may also argue that on the evidence given at the first trial, there is no legal or factual basis to even put that defendant on trial again. In the alternative, and at a minimum, we will argue that a new trial should be ordered for the ComEd defendants. And Patrick Collins agrees that a retrial is the likeliest outcome here, but since Madigan's trial has not yet happened, the government has some time to make changes based on today's ruling.
It may be a narrower case for Madigan. The Madigan defense lawyers undoubtedly will say the case should get thrown out. But I think what you're going to have is a more narrow Madigan case where there's time for the government to reform their arguments and analysis because of this Snyder opinion.
So the ComEd 4 defendants, they're still awaiting sentencing. There's going to be a hearing now on July 9th. Further hearings to come in the Madigan case. Prosecutors have said the conviction should stand, as many of them involve statutes beyond bribery. But no question, today's ruling makes it much tougher for the feds to prosecute corrupt politicians in Illinois going forward. Sylvia and Terrence.
Right.